Hey, what's going on, guys? Kyle here, coming at you with another short video. Today I just want to go over making a logo 3D. I have a pretty quick and easy way to do this. It's not too difficult. The problem with Davinci Resolve is it's not a 3D software. There's a lot of limits on what it can do. It can only really make text 3D. That's really what you have the most control over as far as giving it thickness and changing the size. You do have a shape 3D, but there's a limit on that. Only a little bit you can do. If you have your own logo, I have not found a good way just to make it 3D within Davinci Resolve, so we're going to do a few things here. We're going to be using Inkscape and we're going to be using Blender to make our logo 3D. This applies to any logo you find and you just want to make it look a little bit 3D and add a little bit extra to it. You don't have to have a deep knowledge of these programs. I'm going to walk you through it, and there's just a few tools that we're going to use, and then we're going to bring it into Davinci Resolve to do our final setup. All right, so first we need to find a logo. What are we going to pick on? You know what, let's pick on Splitgate. Let's find a Splitgate PNG. Coming soon to console, by the way. All right, once you find a logo that you like or you have your own, just go ahead and bring it into Inkscape, go to Import, find where you put it, and just bring it in. Now the problem with leaving a logo just as a PNG file is if you try and make it bigger, it pixelates. So what we need to do is change it into a SVG, which is a scalable vector graphic, which, as you might imagine, allows you to scale things and make them as big as you want. So go to Path, go to Trace Bitmap. We're going to go over to Multiple Scans, and we're going to go to Colors and click Update to get a preview. Colors, we'll just pick as many colors as you need. For this particular logo, 8 is a pretty good option. It'll get us all the colors that we need. I'm going to uncheck Smooth and uncheck Speckles. I don't want any little speckles in there. I don't want to smooth the corners. I want the sharp edges. I'm going to click OK. It's going to look like it didn't do anything, but we can go ahead and close out of this. What it did is it just put a SVG file over top of that, and they look pretty good, pretty similar. We can go ahead and delete our old one. If you need to tell a difference, you can always just zoom in and see which one pixelates and which one stays smooth. The other option is to go click on this Edit Paths by Node. If I click on it, I can see all the little dots where I can't on a PNG file because it's not the correct file. So go ahead and delete the old one, bring in the new one. I'm going to go ahead and scale this down, so I'm going to click this handle. I'm going to hold Control so I keep it proportional. I'm just going to shrink it down, and I'm going to put it towards this corner. It'll help me later when I bring it into Blender. What I need to do is, there's one issue with this, and that's it has a white border. We don't want that white border. So right now this is all grouped into one thing, so what I need to do is I need to go to Object, go to Ungroup. That's going to let me grab all these individual parts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this white background. I'm going to change the color so I can see it, and then I'm going to drag it off to the side here. So what we just want all this inside stuff to be a background. We don't want any of this box. So I'm going to go to Path. I'm going to go to Break Apart. Now this broke it up into its individual chunks, so I can go ahead and delete this bigger portion. Now we just have this part left, but it's inverted. It's not what we want. We have white as the negative space, and we have all this blue as what we already have over here. We need to swap this around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these back together. Go to Path, and I'm going to go to Combine, and I'm going to go to this Edit Paths by Node tool. I'm going to click on it, and if I hold Control and use my mouse wheel, I can zoom in. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab some of these nodes at the bottom, and then I'm going to bring them down until they're overlapping. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to overlap some of these features. Just bring it back a little bit. And I'm just going to do that to these other edges and fix it up. All right, now that that's done, now that's a full shape all the way around, I need to convert it back, switch this negative space, so I'm going to make a cutout. So I'm going to grab the square, I'm going to make a square, go back to your selection tool, and we'll just lower it to the bottom. Let's go ahead and change the color of this so we can see what's going on. Now we're just going to take this and cut it out of this shape so that it'll invert what we have there. So go ahead and grab our selection up top, hold Shift, click on the square, and we're going to go to Path Difference. Now you're thinking we're stuck with the same thing that we had before, but since this is now a completed loop, if we break this apart like we did before, we can delete this square. We have a few more objects here. We've got this that we don't need. and we're left with this. So this is our negative space. We want to group these back together. So go ahead and path, combine, and we can go ahead and just move this back to where we need it, and we'll change it back to white. That's a lot of work. Typically you won't have to do that if your logo isn't broken apart like this. I chose this one specifically to show you that issue. If it's not broken apart, you'll have a lot easier time. You'll just have to bring it in and convert it to an SVG and you'll be done. But if you have a background that you need to get rid of, that's how you can get rid of it. All right, so now this is set. Now we just need to save it and we need to bring it into Blender. All right, now that we fixed up our logo, we can go ahead and bring it into Blender. This is the default view. Go ahead and click on your cube, hit delete. Then we can go ahead and bring in our SVG. Go to import SVG, go ahead and bring it in, and it'll look like it didn't do anything. But if you look over on the right hand side, you see these paths. That means it did. Now it's going to be pretty small. That's why I pushed it over to that corner in Inkscape. I know it'll be toward the center. So if I just highlight that, you can see it right there. Now if I hit period on the number pad, it'll bring me straight in, and I'm going to hit 7 on the number pad to bring me to the top view. So there's our logo. We may have some extra stuff. So if you click through here, it'll show you all the pieces, and you may see that's just a bunch of little dots. So I can go ahead and delete that. Go through the rest of this, see if you have any other stuff. Yep, there's one, delete it. All right, the rest of it looks clean. Now what we're going to need to do first is put this in the center. So if we highlight everything, then we hit Shift S, we can do cursor to selected. Now it didn't do anything that time. It should, but it doesn't sometimes. So if we highlight everything to get around that, we go to Object, Set Origin. This will set the origin for our logo. Go to Origin to Geometry. Now if we hit Shift S, we do cursor to selected, it'll go to the center. We don't want all these center points for these different pieces. We want them all be centered on that. So if we go to Object, go to Set Origin, Origin to 3D Cursor. Now our origin for all our pieces is going to be right there. Now if I just hit Alt G, it should just bring it to the center. And then I can hit Shift S and cursor to world origin. Now everything's centered, it's looking good. I can navigate with the scroll wheel. If you hit Shift and click down your middle mouse button, you can pan around. What we're going to do is I'm going to rotate this a bit so I can see. We're just going to extrude pieces of this out to give it a 3D look. So select a piece, tab to go into the edit mode, and we can't actually edit this yet because this isn't a mesh. So tab back out to the object mode. We need to convert all these paths to a mesh. So highlight everything, right click, go down to convert to mesh. Now you can see the icon change. Now if we select something and hit tab, you can see it's now a bunch of little triangles. We have a mesh there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these triangles and extrude them out. We have point selection, we have line selection, and we have face selection. And we just want to put it in face mode. These correspond to your 1, 2, 3 keys. So I'm going to hit 3, and then I'm going to hit A to select all. By the way, if you hit Control A in Davinci Resolve, it'll select all nodes for you. That's a little handy little tip. But I'm going to hit A to select all. I'm going to hit E to extrude. And while I'm extruding, I can just type in a number that I want. So I'm going to make this 0.01. I'm in millimeters, by the way. I can hit Tab to go back into object mode, select next piece, hit Tab to go into edit, A to grab all, E to extrude, 0.01, enter, tab, selection, tab, A, E, and this one I'm going to make 0.006. And then I'm just going to do all the other pieces that I want. So once we've done all that, we can go back into object mode. Now you may notice it's going to be flat on one side because we only extruded out the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and grab all the pieces that I made 0.01, which will be the text and these outer barriers. Hold Shift and click to select them all. I'm going to hit G, grab it. I'm going to hit Z to lock it to the Z axis. I'm going to make it -0.005, so I center it. And if I hit 1 on the number pad, you can see that I centered it around there. Now I need to move this white portion. I made it 0.006, so I'm going to move it down 0.003. I'm going to hit G, Z to lock it, -0.003. I'm going to hit 1, and then you can see I've centered everything. Now all we need to do is save it and bring it into Davinci Resolve. Make sure you highlight everything. If you don't, you'll just be saving a blank file. Highlight it, go to File, Export, and you can either save it as an FBX or you can save it as an OBJ. I had better luck bringing an OBJ than I did an FBX into Davinci Resolve, so I'm going to do that. I am working on a laptop, so I had less power, so it's going to think about it a little bit, and OBJ just worked a little bit better. So, all right, now we're in Davinci Resolve. Just go to your effects library, new Fusion composition, just drop it in. We'll go over to Fusion, and once we're inside Fusion, we just need to bring in our OBJ file. So go ahead, and this is a little bit different. You'll go to Fusion and Import, and then go to FBX Scene. So you could do an FBX or an OBJ. We're going to click on the OBJ file, and then it's going to ask me all this stuff. I'm just going to click OK to bring everything in. It may think about it a little bit, so if your computer gets locked up a little bit, it may happen. If we bring that in, there's our nice little logo. I think actually both of these nodes are a transform node, so I'm just going to delete one. I don't need that. I'm going to add in a merge 3D node because I want to add a camera and a light to this. So go ahead and add in a spotlight, bring in a camera, add those into the merge. And we're going to still need a render. We need a render 3D to bring this into something usable. So we can't see our final result because this is flipped on its side and we have a camera now. So first thing we're going to go to is this transform, and we're going to transform it 90 degrees. I believe it should be on the X. So put in 90, there we go, it's upright. We still can't see it because our camera will be in the wrong position. If I click on this merge, let's bring this merge up to the viewer. There's my camera there. I can click this camera node, I can see it right there. I'm going to drag it back, and you see in my render, it's coming into view. I'm going to go ahead and scroll back. There we go, and it's pretty well centered. I may have to drag this camera up a little bit to get that centered. That's why we centered it in Blender, so we don't have to mess around with it too much there. The pivot's in the right spot, and then we're just going to add a simple rotation. First, we're going to go to our spotlight. We're going to bring that back to. It's not having any effect because we haven't added that into render. And now if we go to render, you can click on enable lighting, enable shadows. Now you can see it shining on that, and I can move that in and out. You can kind of see how that's working. And what I want to do is I just want to make this rotate. So I'm going to go back to frame 0. I'm going to click on this transform again, and I'm going to make this 90. I want it at its side, so I'm going to click 90, and I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to make this 90 plus 359. So that way when it gets to the end, it'll have one frame left, and it should just loop infinitely now. So this is an easy way you can make an intermission screen with your logo. You could just export this out with alpha. You could convert to WebM and bring it in for, be right back screen or something like that. And just adds a little bit of flair to your logo. You can always add in more lights. You can add in more coloring. You can do really whatever you want from that point. But that's an easy way to make your logo 3D. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you next time. Bye.